Well, we have to start. Isha, you should sign out right now. Wow. Biggest upset in World Junior history, supposedly, as we talk about one of the teams tied for the lead in Group A. Canada, almighty Team Canada, drops one to Latvia, which Isha has made a point to tell everyone. Apparently, it was plus 6,000 to bet Latvia before the game, and if you wanted to bet specifically for them to win in the shootout, plus 10,000. So could have made some big boy bucks there. Pretty crazy. But first, Z, I should pull up here and share. We got video of probably the biggest hit to the team that it's kind of it seems like the biggest blow because everyone's saying he was their number one player, and oh, weird, now all of a sudden the number one guy for the NHL draft. Schaefer goes down hard.
Yeah.
Do you suspend the net for this play?
Oh, that net. Guantanamo. Even though this is taking place in Canada, whatever. Yeah, I like. God damn, obviously it sucks, just in general that a kid he misses the start of the year with pneumonia, or not pneumonia. Oh my God, it was help, help, mono. And he comes back. He misses the start of the year with mono, and everyone's, anyone's familiar with how mono affects you long term. Like, it was like, let's see what this does. He looks even better than he did last year to start the year. He was well over a point per game. I mean, he's playing like 25 to 30 minutes a night in the OHL. Like, legitimately a game breaker from the back end. Then, the World Juniors happened, and like when you look at how this team, which by the way, this is what we should talk about next, is like how this is going for Team Canada. Yeah, like the losing to Latvia is one thing, but just their play in general, they've been like very bad, like horrifically bad. But he was the one guy that was actually like facilitating any kind of offense from the back end as far as like puck carrying goes, and like just making life easier on the forwards or whatever. And of course now he fucking, and the other brutal part about like this being like a legit long-term injury thing is like, I was hoping he would just bounce up so I could be like, that was funny. Because I mean, he just like was looking at the puck and then was like, oh shit, there's a net right there. And he went flying into it. And of course he's out for several months, so it's not funny, but just brutal. And like, and so now moving past this, like you look at the way that this roster's built, they've got nothing. Like as far as like offense from the back end, now you're like, oh, you left out Yakubchuk. You didn't bring one of the best offensive defensemen in the history of the CHL.
Not only did they not bring Yakubchuk, Yakubchuk on Instagram went and liked all of the Latvia posts.
Oh, I did not see that. That's fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, like, you got to wonder, one, would Canada go to him and ask him to come? Because I know there was some discussion around that. Two, would he say yes?
Right. Yeah.
Like, what a wild thing, though, for him to literally go through and like all of the pro Latvia posts on Instagram.
Like, obviously, people are going to notice and see it. Like, it's like,
that's what's happening. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
So
but
crazy.
I mean,
he wasn't the only one. He's just the one that everyone's talking about for obvious reasons.
Right. And like, you look at, again, like this back end, how brutal their power play's been too, and like they got the defense they have to run the show. That's what I mean. And like, oh, you didn't bring one of the best offensive defensemen in the history of the CHL, and Zeev Buium. Like, well, I mean, Zeev Buium's numbers are just in the OHL are like.
That's what I'm saying. Parekh and Yakubchuk
records. So like, there's plenty of guys that like, and I mean, they can still. I think they've got one or two moves they can make. They can like bring guys in or whatever, but like. How bad the power play's been, how brutal their just offensive output's been. Like, yeah, you could just, if you didn't watch the game against Latvia,
Just box score.
And you just looked at the box score like, oh, they probably got goalied. No, they didn't generate fuck all for any kind of like high danger chances. Like everything was perimeter. Yes, of course, the kid made some ridiculous saves. But if you look at like, I think it was like 50 something shots, 60 shots. I think maybe I would be like, yeah, there were like 6 or 7 maybe that I was like, oh, that was a legit, really good. I can't believe that.
I said 8, so I'll yield.
You know, so like you're sitting there and it's like, okay, you left out guys like Perek, guys like Yakimchuk. You left out Beckett Seneke, who, by the way, like after getting snubbed, immediately put up like 9 points in 2 games in the fucking OHL in his first couple games back. He's ripping it up.
2 years.
Michael Misa,
Matthew Wood. Yeah, Michael Misa is actually the glaring omission, but was it too mean of me to take the Braden Yeager miss from the MNCAA account and just put Matthew Wood would have had this?
Yeah, there you go. But like, you know, you look at that too, and you just also consider, all right, well, let's look at the guys they did bring. I wrote down Gavin McKenna, who is easily their like most explosive offensive forward that they have, or player that they have just in general. They are playing him for shit. Like I wrote down his ice time, all 3 games that he's played so far. I gotta find it real quick. McKenna, yeah. So versus Finland, he plays 11:55. Latvia, which they went to overtime, 19:33, and it's Germany 12:07. Like, so what do you do? Like, he is the like highest ceiling, most explosive offensive player that you have on your roster right now, and you're just like burying him. I mean, like not burying him, but like what, fucking 11, 12, and like 19 minutes, and again, it went to overtime. Like that's what you're gonna like throw this kid out there for? It's crazy. So like the rosters, there's so many question marks. I mean, even a guy like Carson Rakoff, who like has been almost like a goal per game in the OHL the last few years, he hasn't got shit. Like you want someone to score on your power play?
Wait, is he playing?
No.
No, he like hasn't even been activated, has he?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that
Porter Martone gets scratched. Like, I mean, it's I don't know what they're doing now that I've talked shit, they're gonna like put up 12 goals every game. By the way, New Year's Eve, USA Canada, sign me up. But I mean, I don't know how you like look at this like Canadian roster that was like we had question marks going in. Like, yeah, they had some legit star power, but like then they started with the way they were constructing lines, who was in, who was out, fucking ice time, and it's just like put up 3 goals against Germany, 2 against Latvia. Like, it's just a very, I don't know. They're not making you feel like, yeah, I would bet on them to win a gold. Now that I said that, they will. So there you go.
And that's the one thing that the US have working against them is that like the Canadian players know the only way that they can get past that Latvia loss is gold medal. Like there's no other way you can like get through this without having that game haunt you forever. Because if you end up winning gold, who gives a shit, right? Or do you disagree?
Say that one again. I
don't know. My right headphone.
No, that's well, no, but like at the same time, you're like, Jesus Christ, like you're gonna get like made fun of. Then you can be like, yeah, well, gold, bitch. Like I don't give a fuck.
No, that's my point. But like, that's what's working against the U.S. is like Canada's got the motivation they need. They need to erase the stink of the worst loss they've ever had. Although
that's what I mean too. They follow that up. You're like they follow that up. They play Germany and they look fucking like just as bad. And like, I'm not trying to shit on Germany, but like,
Isha is
3-0. And like again, I would have assumed that after that loss against Latvia, which is going, I mean, as far as my memory, who knows, not great, but I can't think of any other like bigger upset in what we've seen in World Juniors. Like I can't think of one right now.
No. But now what the World Hockey Report guys said is that it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to a Canadian World Juniors team. And I immediately replied and said, I can think of at least one.
I can think of, yeah. Okay. Well,
and there were a couple people like, what are you talking about? What's that mean? One person replied and just said, ask Carter Hart.
Oh God. Okay. Moving on.
Moving on. But yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah. No, again, it's just the fact that like you would have thought they would have showed up for that game the next night and just gone off, but like it was more the same. Like the power play is giving them nothing. They're like struggling to create any like sustained generated like they're not generating sustained any kind of offense whatsoever. Such like perimeter play. I don't know. So we'll see what they do with this roster now, like who they activate, whatever, but or if they like, what the moves are that they're going to make because they have to at this point. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so let's talk the other side of that big New Year's Eve matchup, because regardless of what just happened against Latvia, that's just one overtime loss. USA suffered an overtime loss to Finland. Now this all comes down to who wins on New Year's Eve, and it's going to be a big matchup. It's going to be fun, and I don't know. USA is different than what we've seen in recent years. Like they are way more top heavy than we've ever seen them. They've got 2 defensemen and a line that have largely driven the team throughout this. Let's start with wild prospect Zeev Buium. What have we been seeing from him in this tournament, Z?
I would have expected a whole lot more, to be honest. I think he's got one goal. I think in their overtime loss against Finland, I think he played between the third period and overtime. He played like 11 and a half minutes last night, so I think he was up to like 28 minutes or so. But I mean, it's weird. He's just like, it looks like he's not shaking off forecheckers as well. He's not like dicing through the neutral zone and creating separation and facilitating offense that way. I mean, he's like, I think he has I think he's got 2 shots total in 3 games, maybe 3. But he looks not like the Zeev Buium we all would have expected. Like, again, I think before the tournament started, or like, I think it was right after that first game where Axel Sandin-Pellikka put up 4 fucking points.
We'll get into
that. I was
that.
Like, here we go. Now Zeev Buium's up next. These 2 are going to go like point for point.
I think that's what everyone thought.
Like, whoops, my bad. So, again, throw that on my shoulder.
And he hasn't been bad. He just hasn't done what we had hoped.
Zeev Buium. Yeah. And again, like what's he leading like the nation like scoring for defensemen, at least like gold? Maybe I don't remember what it is, but yeah, he's got 2 shots. He's just taking 2 or 3 shots. Denver
just lost to UNLV.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say about that, shout out Riga Lorenz. He had his guy 3 points. He's a +3. Like, what's he supposed to do? You know, I had my guy. It's my favorite shit in the world, by the way. But I would be like, I had my guy, dude. And I don't know. What are you guys doing? That was insane. They put up 100 shots. I think the shots were like 128, which is nuts. And they still lost the shootout. They came back from 5-1 too, which is brutal.
And they got 1 first place vote in the USCHO poll. This is like going back to Cornell getting the vote before the season before they'd even opened up play. But it's tough. But let's talk about
well specifically the Finland game though. Like that's where you're like, oh, there's a lot of these are the flaws. Like I mean,
yeah,
that top line of Perreault, Hagens, and Leonard that we saw. Leonard was a problem. Like not in a good way. I mean, I think it was the second or third goal where he played the puck into the zone and then stopped and like asked for the offsides. Then Hagens was like, oh, okay, offsides. And they just stopped playing. And Finland immediately scores. I think that was the one that Kumpalainen got his point. But like he's taken some actually, no, it was Cole Hutson took a ridiculous slashing penalty. That's like one of the ones that I love. Just fucking 2-handed the guy's stick out of his hands. Clearly a penalty 3 feet away from the ref. And I was like, what are you doing? But they look undisciplined. They clearly were like very frustrated by Finland, who also the first 2 games of this tournament looked like dog shit. Like they had nothing. And then every time they play the United States in this goddamn tournament, they turn into the 96 Red Wings. Like they're the best hockey team on the planet. Like they honestly, for stretches of that game, kicked the shit out of US. Like USA could not generate anything through their neutral zone. the classic way that the Finns always find success is like their discipline and just like how difficult it is to enter the zone and generate any kind of like sustained offense, like get inside. They like executed that game plan to perfection. And I mean, they got outdone by like just a couple of real nice goals. That shot from Cole Hutson was so fucking nasty.
We've got that one teed up too.
And like, you know, Perreault gets robbed on the breakaway and then he hits the post immediately after, which obviously would have been nice to convert there. But like, shout out Rimpinen, what a fuck. Like 2 periods where he was just a world beater. But it was clear that they were incredibly frustrated by the Finns. The power play was a problem. And I mean, they really only got anything versus Finland, like from that like third line, really.
Is that a wake-up call in your mind? Like, is that like a good jolt to the system before playing Canada? Or is that more evidence of, oh shit, this is a flawed roster?
No, I think it's more like in my head, it should have been more of a wake-up call for Canada when they lose to Latvia than they still show up and do nothing against Germany. There's no reason that the U.S. should have been like underestimating Finland to the same degree. Like, because to me, it was like, and like, you know how Finland's going to play.
Yep.
And like, unless you just assume they're going to carry over play from the first 2 games, which like I can't imagine actually would have been anything that they were thinking about. But like, you know how Finland has always played you, but you know the style that they need to play to find success. And again, I do think like, yeah, the USA were not good. It was they should have had a like better plan, I guess, going into this. But like Finland played incredible. Like they executed their game plan to perfection, really. So that was a very, very impressive showing from them, obviously. But I don't know. It's like, it's weird. It's like, yeah, I guess it should be a wake-up call considering like you should have known what was coming. Because like this is a fucking good Finland team. Like this is the first time I think we've had like 5 legit contenders. Like, because I mean, you look at Czechia, what they're doing, they look fucking unbelievable.
You know what though? It's not even like. Would you argue that contender might be a stretch, but like Slovakia could absolutely do damage in pool play or in like the bracketed play once we get past pool play. Like that's not a team I want to play.
Right. Yeah, I put them like just a little bit below the big dogs, but at the same time, like they've got 3 or 4 guys that will hurt you if you let them. Like if you underestimate the ball, they can score. And they've got some real good defensemen too. So yeah, I mean, again, this is just like the first time we've had a tournament where it's like, oh shit, there's not like just 2 teams really, or maybe 3. But it's been so good, and I mean, like, there's been like legit drama with like Latvia, Germany today. That was another great game today. So it's been fun.
It's crazy. Now here's the Hutson snipe that you mentioned. We gotta at least give credence to that. Now, like, hand raised. I've been critical of the younger Hutson, just in the sense that he is not Lane. But this was sick,
dude. Now the reverse angle is unbelievable. I love that he also was at Leonard that he was looked off. He was like, I'm not fucking giving you the puck. Like, he had it like he is wide open.
It's like, that BCBU hate ringing through.
Calls his own number. What a fucking, I mean, that is absurd.
Now, what we really need to talk about, Z, and this is for both, you know, just general listeners of this show, but also the greater Minnesota fan base. Brodie Ziemer is a problem.
Dude, yeah.
This guy, I'm telling you, I know you got to see it firsthand when you came to visit, but I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Like, every time I watch him play, he gets better. And he's an absolute steal for Buffalo in the third. And my buddy Joey will tell you that just means that he's going to get ruined by the Sabres or be trade fodder, one of the two. But he's so fucking good.
Yeah, I think he just looks like a kid that's going to be able to, regardless of who he's playing with, he's going to be able to play in your middle six and just put up legit offense. Plays a good two-way game. He plays with fucking fire. I love, like, I think that kid scores goals, whether it's like a game winner or it's like 8-0. He is fired up. Great celly. But I mean, he plays the right way, dude. And he just finds himself in the right positions, which is just such an underrated like part of goal scoring, is just being in the right areas of the ice, like finding quiet areas, and then attacking open space, like where you know the puck's going to be. But he kind of just does everything right on the ice. And, like, I mean, that's why he's scoring. I mean, every game he gets better for Minnesota, it feels like in college hockey. Like, he's just been a stud. And, I mean, we saw him. He was a fucking animal against Michigan State when we saw him live.
Dude,
like, that was
he's way more physical than I thought that he was going to be.
It's interesting, too, because we go into we do media after, and you see without the pads, you're like, he doesn't look like he's fucking, like he's, what, 6'1", 6'2", maybe?
Dude. Anyone that hasn't yet, go check out. We sat down with Brodie Ziemer, Oliver Moore, and Matthew Wood to do like a preview for all the World Juniors. It's up on the YouTube channel. And I sat right next to him and I'm like, God, like when you're playing in the game, I'm like worried that you're going to kick my ass. And I'm sitting here next to you and I'm like, wait, are you the same person?
It's crazy.
But he's such a like good, humble kid too. Like, I don't know. He's probably my favorite Gopher right now behind Sam Renzel. I'm just like weirdly fascinated and obsessed and like ready to watch his trajectory in now as just a freshman. Like he is going to pace that class and it's going to be really fun to watch. Anything else we want to touch on with USA? I mean, like, I guess I'm going to continue on the Gopher track. We got to talk a little Oliver Moore, even though he's not like showing up big on the score sheet. Like you said, that line is proving out well. And David Carl has said as much that like Oliver Moore is the guy that is just going to push you across the finish line every time. Dude is pacing the team. He's really grown as a leader in his development.
Yeah. I mean, like even little parts of his game that like, you know, in his draft year, or like the things that made him a first round pick. Other parts of his game we didn't even really consider. You see that this tournament, like on the forecheck, he's been a beast, and like winning pucks, establishing possession, like he's everywhere on the ice. And I mean, even when he's not putting up points, again, all three of those guys on that line, like they just play the right fucking way. They're where they need to be. They're not doing more than they should be. They're not forcing plays. They're just playing good hockey. Which, like, you know, when your top guys aren't going, hopefully you can get some like contributions from that middle, like the second, third line or whatever. But like they're giving you a little bit of everything. They play at both ends of the ice, and like just the intangibles that Oliver Moore brings, like that skating, like another guy I'd pay to just like watch do a fucking back skate. Like that motherfucker, like backwards, you know, like he's just flying around the ice. But he's just playing the right way. Which I mean, it's been such an important line because I mean, again, like we talk shit about like how bad Canada's looked. Like USA hasn't really they put up a bunch of goals game one, but at the same time, you're like, man, it still doesn't feel right. Right. So they're not firing all cylinders either. But like, it's always good. Like he's like a good leader is still a guy that like even when shit's going wrong, still is playing the right way, not trying to do too much and making a lot of little plays that make big differences. So yeah, he's a great player, dude. Dude,
can you believe the Wild passed on him in the draft? That was insane.
I can't handle the bit anymore, dude. Like I'm thinking it's driving me nuts. Like I'm just like I'm gonna throw up.
Oh,
they traded up this year. They couldn't do it last year. Fucking unbelievable.
It's so good.